Okay, I guess it's time to go. I live. I'm not dead, I promise. After dealing with kind of a rough weekend and some bad allergies, I'm finally back, and I'm ready to stream, at least for a little while. I had a doctor's appointment today, so I was able to kind of take the day off. Um, I also did so a little bit for my mental and physical and emotional health, but that's another story entirely. So I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of this and do some cleanup on some projects that I forgot that I started and need to finish. So let's go ahead and get to work on that. Right now, didn't even have him started when we last saw each other, but I'm pretty much done with him. A rat boy. He's going to need a little bit more work done to him, a little bit more in the highlighting, but he looks pretty darn good. And I'm hoping, excuse me, my rat girl, I apologize. I'm hoping that it'll be good enough to wow some people for the painting contest that One Page Rules is doing, and I might be able to win myself some resin. So I suppose we'll see, but beyond that point, I'm just really happy with how it turned out. I think it looks really good. Let's go ahead and do some more in-depth shading on him, or on her, to see if I can draw just a little bit more contrast out of this lovely little rat. Okay. Let's go ahead and shake up some paints. Then once we're done with that, I might work on finishing up some heavy eradicators that I've had for a while and completely forgot that I never finished. And then I can work on pretty much anything else. I've got Terminators that need to be mopped up and finished up. Right now I've got one that's about 2/3 done. I've got a proxy of Yvraine that I want to get done for a friend. I have a, I don't even know what these are called, a Noxious Blightbringer, I guess? One of these guys, who was painted by someone else, and I think I went back over and painted all the non-metallic parts, but I really don't like the color of the metal. I feel like it's just way too bright and contrasty, so I think I'm going to knock that back down, possibly give him some highlights since he is a character model, and go ahead and touch him up as well. But I suppose we'll see. I'm only going to be on for maybe an hour and a half, depending on how long we're going to get. But who knows? We'll see when I'm able to get done what I feel like getting done today. I do know that Yvraine is going to be an interesting piece because I made the fatal mistake of putting all of her on her base, as well as her cat model, which is kind of weird to say. But there's a lot to her, and I possibly made this much harder by like putting it all on here at once instead of breaking it up. But here is the proxy of Yvraine, which I think is a fantastic looking model. I think I'm just going to go ahead and slap chop it. It doesn't need to be intricately detailed, but the slap chop will do a good job of bringing out the contrast, and then I'll just work from there. But that'll be for another day. Right now, let's work. Specifically, what I want to work on with Madame Rat is the contrast in her leather, because I've noticed, unfortunately, that the leather in her like chest pouch doesn't look that great. It's kind of flat. I can also go back and hit some of the studs, hit some of the parchment on her. It's mainly the stuff on front that just isn't reading strongly enough for me. So I think that's what's going to happen today. Now, something that is a little different, which is a very minor thing unless you've been following me for a while, is I've gone back to using my Winsor and Newton brushes because I spent a lot of money on them, and I'd like to see if they actually are still holding up, or if I've just fallen too far in love with those liner brushes I've been using. Though, going back to them, I'm finding myself once again kind of enamored with the control they have, because they are fantastic brushes, don't get me wrong. Going back to the liner brushes was a nice little diversion, but as with everything else, they've kind of had their purpose, and they wore down really quickly, possibly from the amount of abuse I put on them. And now I don't really get the same kind of precision that I was getting. So I guess that is the beauty of Winsor and Newton, is if you treat them well, they're going to continue to work well. Though I have seen rumblings that the Winsor and Newton brushes, the quality control just isn't there anymore. A combination of the pandemic, just people retiring, and a host of other issues has kind of knock them from their high spot. So I might need to switch over to a company like Raphael, who apparently does fantastic brushes, or even a company like Da Vinci, who I bought from before, wasn't too fond of, but I could have just gotten a bad batch. I know that Artist Opus has his own set of brushes that are fairly pricey, but are apparently worth it. I looked at, oh my god, I forgot his name. Jose Da Vinci is one who doesn't use Winsor & Newton. There's a couple of different guys I can look at. Angel Giraldez, that's it. And their work is beautiful, and they found fairly affordable but still high quality brushes of Kolinsky Sable and of Imitation Sable. And so I might go ahead and make the switch over to those guys, give those a shot, and see if they might be a worthy substitute for Winsor & Newton. But, you know, that's all neither here nor there right now. And I suppose I will just have to give them all a shot, and you guys will get to see it because it'll all be done live. I will say, now that I've gone back to using these, the precision that I can get off of a Winsor & Newton brush is still fantastic. I'm really enjoying using these paint brushes again. But yeah, had a break, had a holiday. We celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which has kind of gone back into prominence due to the civil rights protests that were happening over the pandemic, and the government wanting to recognize or wanting to appease the masses, I guess, by changing some things. And so it was kind of nice to see that we were getting an officially recognized holiday for that. But unfortunately, that was spent with severe allergy issues, so I didn't really get to enjoy it, which, you know, sucks. And that's a big reason why I didn't bother to get online and paint. Was dealing with severe allergies, and then yesterday was a lot of the same story. So I didn't get online to paint, but I did definitely break out the brush and work on this guy very clearly. Hey, Toby Kofi. All I know about is almost Public Enemies by the time I get to Arizona. I actually don't know much about Public Enemy. I was not really into rap and hip-hop when they were popular. But, you know, he was a civil rights leader. He was assassinated. By the way, I feel so bad for messing up your name. I've been listening to Doig & Swift VODs while I've been painting. And you've obviously popped in there a lot and contributed, and I'm hearing them call you Toby Kofi, and I'm thinking, who the heck is that? And I look and realize, oh, I'm just terrible at reading. So, much apologies for that. But, yeah, he was a civil rights leader in an era where, you know, minorities, specifically Black Americans, really wanted to stop being treated like... Yeah, definitely, me too. I was really big into, like, Swedish Melodeath and new metal at the time. And a lot of older classic metal, but that's a whole nother thing. But, assassinated for his beliefs. Funnily enough, well, not funnily enough, but he was also an ardent socialist and was arguing for workers' rights, and actually was assassinated shortly after encouraging labor unions to stand up to obviously those issues. Tobacco. That's fair. I don't know what that is. I feel bad that I don't know what that is. I feel like there's an allusion there, a reference there that I'm not getting. So if you'd like to explain it, I'd love to hear it. That way I can have better context. God, the history of the unions in the U.S. is so fucked. Yes, they are. This country was built on slavery, and they've decided that they're going to extend that in every way possible. And anyone who says otherwise is deluding themselves. Oh my goodness. Like tobacco, but not... Okay, tobacco. Okay, fair enough. Oh, goodness. No reference to get. Fair enough. Yeah, most things I figure are references that I just don't understand because I'm old. I'm not really that old. I'm in my mid-30s, but I've kind of gone into my little like pop culture hole. So a lot of things are now lost on me. But yeah, just working on this little rat lady. But yeah, around the same time, Martin Luther King Jr. was doing his civil rights protests and trying to just get the government and society to treat Black Americans like people equally. There was another revolutionary, another civil rights leader named Malcolm X, and he kind of gets villainized by the United States history books and the United States government. Somebody called Neil Cicierega, early internet history pioneer, recently, and I felt so old. As you should, because I feel the same way. I remember watching his stuff without realizing it was him for a long time as a kid. And then or not as a kid, I guess I was in like middle high school, and just realizing that his influence is that aged was just like, oh, okay, yep, I'm gonna go get my walker and cane because apparently I'm too old to walk unassisted now. It's like when I first started teaching at the high school level, one of the first memories I had was kids talking about retro consoles and referring to the Nintendo 64 as retro. And I could feel my bones wither and die within me. And nowadays, because I still teach high school, I'm still dealing with new generations, new students. The PlayStation 3 is considered a retro console. For students, something wasn't very Fortnite Victory Royale. No, I have not. As funny as that would be. They're beyond Fortnite now. I don't know any kid who really plays that because that was something that was popular when they were wee little tater tots. So it feels weird knowing that, other than obtaining new interests every now and then, that the fads have, or the flavor of the month just goes by so quickly. One of my friends is a bus driver, and he likes to use really bad, cringy, like humor, wordplay, to get the kids to behave. And so he'll tell them, look, if you don't stop messing around or if you don't settle down, I'm going to start talking to you like or a Baptist preacher trying to be cool. And he'll say things like, who wasn't very sus? Jesus. And that eventually gets the kids to start groaning and stop messing with each other. And I think it's the funniest thing in the world. Oh my goodness. One moment, please. Hey, youth pastor energy. Oh goodness, but yeah, I live in I don't want to say it's a pretty rough area, but it's definitely lower income urban housing type stuff, and so the school district kind of reflects that. What am I doing? I'm trying to highlight this lady rat, and make her look as visually interesting as possible, and I feel like I'm struggling a little bit. Because she is using a lot of dark colors. She has been shaded down, and now I feel like it's my job to bring back up some of the more interesting elements on her. This is going to be for a painting competition. 1-page rules every month. Yep, there's a rat. See, even got the tail holding the lantern. This is from 1-page rules, who I feel does some of the best wargaming miniatures out there that isn't a major company. They started as kind of a simplified alternative to Warhammer, and via their Patreon have just become big enough. Yeah, I know. Oh, that's a tail. Exactly. That they've started like hiring artists to make their own minis, because they were originally supposed to be mini agnostic, so you didn't feel like you had to buy a specific set of minis to play their game. But and they still are. Like, they have official minis if you want to use them, but they aren't minis you have to use, right? So this is supposed to be their proxy for Skaven, which they call the Ratmen clan. And by and large, they don't make them exactly the same, so they're not swampy little, conniving bastards anymore. They decided that now they're the remnants of a fallen empire. One moment. And so they tried to keep some of that weird, anachronistic tech stuff, as you can see with the double blunderbuss pistol, and in the meantime they've got the giant axe with the halberd at the end of it, but it's all attached to some mechanical stuff. So my buddy Soft Servo really likes rats, and he really liked the Skaven, but he also didn't want to have to spend a small fortune to buy an army of Skaven. And he's also a huge fan of like the Rats of Nim and Redwall and that kind of stuff. So when he saw that the Ratmen clans were going to be a thing in one-page rules, it's a very social. Yeah, exactly, right. Rats are very social creatures, would have a civilization. I think it works. Warhammer kind of went the other way with it and just made them, monstrously evil little things. But from what I understand, one-page rules, like I said, they made them more noble. And so they have like almost like knights and monarchs and whatnot. And so this is supposed to be a rat priest, and in 40k they're kind of gross and they're dirty and they've got that going on for them. But in one-page rules, they're very much. Where did my purple go? There's my purple. I grew up on the countryside in old houses, not a fan of rodents. Yeah, understandable. I think for the most part he's only seen them as domesticated. And he's fascinated by them because he hasn't had that situation. But who am I to judge, right? I'm not the biggest fan of rats. I think they're neat. My sister had a pet mouse when she was growing up. But I also was a huge fan of books like Redwall, and I actually hadn't seen The Secret of Nim until, a few months ago, last year. And that movie was absolute fire. So I definitely understand his love of that. And so I decided that since this was a model that was just released and I could win some resin by painting it, I was going to go ahead and paint it up for him so that he would have this character when he eventually makes his Ratman army, but also I could win some resin off of it, right? From what I understand, he grew up in West Virginia, which is fairly rural, but he also spent a lot of time in like Virginia Beach, which is a lot more urban, and in Roanoke, which is kind of a nice mix of the two. Thank you, Mr. Motorhead. One-page rules is simplified games. Yeah, they started because Warhammer 7th edition or whatever was way too complicated, and so they made their own version of it, which is a much easier game to play. And they just kept going. They made some other one-page rules type things. They made ones for Blood Bowl and Necromunda and Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Fantasy Battles and other games, right, that I'm not aware of. But with the rise of 3D printing and the rise of Games Workshop in general with the pandemic, their Patreon has exploded. And so that's my understanding. I never played 7th. But they started being able to hire different artists who could make more sophisticated models that were just a better representation of what they were going for artistically. And so their Patreon now includes like a third of an army as part of it. A lot of people seem to think very favorably of 3rd edition. Again, I wasn't playing Warhammer at the time, so I have no clue. Wasteland Racing, think Mario Kart, but with a lot more bloodshed. Yeah, they had that too. They had their own version of that. I think some of that fell to the wayside as they realized that their bread and butter was going to be Grim Dark Future, as they call it, and Age of Fantasy, like those kind of games. And there's a growing interest in, I think it's called Aeronautica Imperialis in official 40k, but they've called it FTL. So there's that happening too. I'm mildly interested in getting into that stuff, but right now I'm really stuck on the mini painting and the playing of one-page rules because we tried to play 9th, and 9th just became too many overlapping rules and triggers and auras, and all of that and made life really frustrating, especially because the person who I'm doing this for, Soft Servo, he has ADHD, and so between trying to remember the game, trying to think of the strategies to play the game, trying to remember all of his AdMech triggers, and trying to remember what each of his guys do, and then the secondaries and everything else, he just couldn't do it. And he just got real frustrated. And then we played one-page rules because I introduced it to him, and in his mind he just went, this is so much better. Friendship ended with Games Workshop. New friend is one-page rules. And so he's basically washed his hands of Games Workshop, which is fair. The minis are too expensive, especially as a parent with 2 kids. The rule bloat and then the constant changing of the rules is incredibly frustrating to him when all he wants to do is play game. DM'd a few games of Mutants and Masterminds. I keep hearing about that and here it's great. Yeah, it's trying to do too much. So, that's the big reason why he picked it up. That's the big reason why I'm kind of working on this, is to help give him a little bit something to push him towards Age of Fantasy. I want to start a Night Haunt army, and I feel like this will encourage him to help me do that by giving me someone to play against. I want a generic RPG system I could shove my own... I think Fate does that, doesn't it? I think it's called Fate. There's a couple of ones like that, and I mean, there was the OGL, but that thing seems to be going out the window real fast. As Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast decide that they don't like money and they want to alienate every fan they have. That whole thing. Yeah, GURPS is the other one. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, there's a couple of really good systems out there that have been around for a while, so they've had plenty of support and plenty of time to kind of work out the kinks. I kind of suffer from the same problem as Soft Servo. I get very one-track mind with the stuff I'm interested in. Faithful. No, we're not talking about Fatal. That's not... you said enough. No Fatal, please. We're staying away from that. Stupid, edgy. I'm sorry, all I can think of is how much I hate that system and what it involves. 4chan was a mistake. And I know it predates 4chan, but that's a whole nother thing. I'm actually really curious because I'm so deep in the Warhammer rabbit hole right now in trying to play Wrath and Glory, which apparently is a really good system that mimics Warhammer's mechanics well enough while still making it an RPG. So that's something I'm looking at, but for some reason I can't wrap my mind around the mechanics of it, which is a wee bit frustrating. Because they're really straightforward, so it's like, why can't Brain do this? Come on, Brain. You graduated from college, for Christ's sakes. The Brain's just like, nope, don't understand. I think I just need to really sit down and give it a good read. Okay, let's go ahead and see what I can do about raising the contrast on some of this stuff, because his arm is kind of swallowing up some of these things. And then we got these studs. Let's go ahead and make these studs look a little more non-metallic. But yeah, the only tabletop game that I've really spent a lot of time with in terms of trying to figure out and master the system was 5th edition D&D. I tried to play 4th when I was younger in college, but just wasn't that good at it. And by the time I really got a hang of it, I graduated from college and all my friends moved away. And so I didn't really do much of 4th edition. And then 5th edition came out, and between things like Critical Role and just in general having better access to the material, I just kind of went that route. And obviously now, Wizards has decided they want to blow up all their goodwill that they've made with their fans. And so that's kind of going away. That, and I've just fallen so much in love with the lore of 40k that D&D has kind of lost a lot of the interest for me. Like, I still play, my wife is really into it, but my general interest in D&D is not where it was a couple years ago. Yeah, let's go ahead and just bring out a little bit more in this, because I have definitely knocked this down way too much. Okay. But yeah, if you're interested in playing something that's similar to Warhammer and has the same feel as Warhammer, but doesn't take 8 different source books and a million sub-steps, I can't recommend one-page rules enough. I do feel like it kind of swings too far the other way, and you lose some of the identity of the armies, especially if you've invested a lot of time in your specific army. But beyond that, it's a fantastic system. Like, I'm a big Imperial Fist player, right? And they have some specific rules, they have some specific characters, and this, that, and the other, and you don't get that in one-page rules. They're just Battle Brothers, which is fine, because I can still, they've got so many different unit types that if I really wanted to, I can make a completely different Space Marine Battle Brothers army than my friend who plays Salamanders. But they lose their chapter tactics, they lose their named characters, because one-page rules doesn't believe in named characters. Overall, it's a good game. That's the best I can say about it. Overall, it's a good game. It has variant levels of depth depending on how far you want to go down the rabbit hole, but it doesn't need all those extra ones. It's got its own version of Crusade, which is really cool and something I want to get into with friends. I assume you have Skull Fist, Get Fist. No, unfortunately not. That's something else. Games go a lot quicker. In 40k, you're kind of stuck there for a few hours, like 3 to 4 hours, depending on how well your opponents understand the game and how much you've got to look over rules and whatnot. One-page rules can happen a whole lot quicker. We finished a game that in one-page rules was, I think, 6,000 points between 4 armies. We finished it in about 2 hours, which seems obscene when you think of 40k's games taking 4 to 5 to 6 hours, depending with that kind of size. But part of the problem is I don't win a whole lot. I'm not very good at the game. And it doesn't help that, in general, my friends all play Horde armies. I've got one playing Machine Cult, which is AdMech. I've got another playing Orcs. And so they don't handle well larger armies. Because, action economy being a thing. They use alternating activations instead of I go my entire turn, then you go. Your mic is picking up some feedback. It's not properly grounded, shielded. That's weird. It should be. Yeah, I don't know what's causing that. Because I can see the audio input capture is going crazy even when I'm not talking. I was wondering what that was. What is causing that? Let's see if I can move the wire away from some of the other wires. Maybe that'll help. Nope, that ain't doing it. And it's also causing my... What is going on with my tech stuff? Everything's breaking! Matter of fact, why is the focus going nuts? It's on manual focus. Give me a second. No, it's still doing it. I don't know. Ever since I moved some things around, it's been acting kind of funky, and I'm not sure why. And I didn't move too much. I moved the mic so that it's facing me instead of coming out from the side of the desk. And and it was working fine for a while, and now it's just decided to do this. Yeah, you're right. It is picking up some weird popping. And it's in the same place that I've had it in for a while. Maybe did something get loose? Do you have any weird lights in the room? Not really. I have my desk lamp, and I have the lamp on the arm that I've been using since I started this, and I've got an overhead light that's an old, not halogen, what are the old lights called? The ones that are just like the rods. I always forget. Why can't I brain today? I don't know why I can't brain today, because I haven't been able to brain for a month. The fluorescent bulbs. I have a fluorescent bulb. And, but that, again, my setting hasn't really changed, in the past few months that I've been doing this. I've pretty much kept it the same. I wonder what, Like, I've actually got, my camera is running through a splitter, and that's fine. But my mic, let's unplug that. I don't think that's it, but I haven't used that webcam in a while. My mic is running straight through to my computer. Yeah, there it is again. Is it because my music is too loud? I don't think it's the music, but let's turn the music down a little bit. No, it's still popping. That is really weird. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it real quick and mess around with the connections, make sure that the connections are still good. So give me a moment. Yeah, it's a USB mic. It's a Razer Siren Mini. Yeah, one moment. Unplug the mic, unplug the connector from the mic. Gonna replug the USB. It's a proprietary USB, which sucks. I'm gonna replug that into the computer. Okay. Switching back over to the Razer Siren Mini. I'm probably a lot louder now. I unplugged the connector from both sides. It's a proprietary one that goes with the try a different USB port, and if you can try using a USB hub, changing from front to rear panel. I'm gonna try that. Okay, I've got it plugged into the USB hub. A grounding fault your computer has developed over time. That's also a possibility because this computer is supposed to be, it's a Asus TUF. It's a laptop. And it's supposed to be, you know, a little bit more rugged. Sound clean now? I don't know. I can't hear it from here. Like, I can still see some residual popping happening on it. Sounds clean to you? Okay. So I just gotta plug it into the USB. I need to buy a better USB hub. I'm using an Amazon Basics one that was given to me for Christmas years ago. That's really weird. Let me try. Looks like I'm still getting some light popping, but nowhere near as bad as it was. Please upgrade. Oh, warning. Please upgrade both NVIDIA Video and Audio SDK. Your current version is outdated. I don't know how to do that. A power socket? That's a good question. I guess so. I think so, yeah, because I plugged into it. Yeah. I mean, I'm daisy chaining it like an idiot, but unfortunately in my basement I've only got like 2 sockets above me. One of them has a surge protector in it, the other one has another surge protector going off to my 3D printer and everything else. So, I don't know what to tell you. I guess it's something I'll have to look up and figure out a little later. And there it goes again. That's very strange. I don't know. That's a weird one. I guess when I look at the playback, I'll get to hear exactly what it sounds like, because I can't hear myself in my headphones, obviously. And I put the headphones in specifically because the sound from the music was kind of bleeding over into the mic. I don't know, maybe it's picking up something else, but this mic has been really, really good about basically blocking everything out that wasn't my voice. I wonder if when Windows updated, it futzed with the microphone. Let's see, camera, no, I don't care about that. OBS Studio is definitely in use. It could be dirty power, but that should not go through the power brick if you're on a laptop. I know, right? I don't get it. Volume mixer, input device, Razer Siren Mini. The system volume's where it should be. Speakers, no, I don't care about that. That's all good. Don't want mono audio. Razer Siren Mini is correct. This device is currently in use, allowing the audio. Have the input volume all the way up. Have the channel that all the way up. Test my microphone. Result 8% of total volume. Testing. Nope, it's picking me up. Check driver updates. I'm up to date. Check for updates again. It sure is checking. I should not get if you're on a laptop. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm on a laptop. I don't have a desktop. I bought a nice one for my wife a few years ago, but that's upstairs. I'm down in the basement because of the 3D printer and the resin issues. Okay, so last little check. Quick internet search reveals others having the same issue. Cool. Glad I spent money on this thing. Let's see, filters. Upgrade both NVIDIA video and audio SDK. How do I audio SDK? I don't know what that is. I don't think I have an audio SDK Windows. Wait, audio SDK OBS. NVIDIA audio effects SDK freeze and OBS. Okay, wait, let's look at this. I integrated my OBS, I got the error in the noise suppression microphone, now it sounds horrible, I find answers on the internet, but find nothing. Experience the same, I found the solution on this forum. Great. I've been contacted several times, audio effects. NVIDIA broadcast software integrations, download resources. Found this update on GitHub. Oh dear. I don't know how to... I think I'm using a 20 series. That sounds about right. Yes, my USB hub is no, it's not powered. It's plugged directly into my computer. Which is partially why I need to upgrade. This thing is pretty clearly substandard for what I'm trying to do. A powered hub might fix it. Well, I mean, before then I had it plugged directly into my computer. So I don't really know what's going on. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and download this NVIDIA upgrade, see if maybe that'll fix it, and if not, then I'll have to figure something else out. That might be a good time to just manage 3D setting, configure surround physics process. I don't know, I don't get it. It's weird. Oh, interesting. Okay, none of this is interesting to me or helping me. This is all video. I don't need video. Okay. Let's see what this thing tells me. Nothing. It just made the, maybe it's booting. Who knows? I'm feisty and impatient because... Oh, there it goes. I can go. I don't need that. I don't need that. Those can all go. Agree and continue. Sure. Okay. That installed. No, I'm still getting some popping. Okay, so I'm just accidentally... I mean, simple stuff. 2-channel, 24-bit, 41... Okay. We'll give that a shot then. This is not the fun I thought I was going to be having today. System. Sounds. Siren Mini.
So they've got that on 2 channels, 24-bit, 41. Okay, 1 channel. I can only put it on 1 channel. Darn. Okay, yeah, because it says, I mean, I'm looking at my options, and the only thing I can put it on is 1 channel. So, oops. Okay, but here, 48, properties. That is indeed the one I'm looking for. Advanced audio properties. I'm getting out of my element here. I know very little about this. Okay, how do I set it to a different one in OBS? Noise suppression. We're gonna turn the noise suppression down. How about that? I'm just gonna turn it down. Nothing. Please upgrade both in video. I did, and it shouldn't be outdated. I think I probably got to turn it off and start it again. I kind of don't want to do that right now. Good quality, more CPU usage. That doesn't seem to matter. I don't know. Sidechain ducking source. No? That seems to be fine. Let's look at... Actually, one moment, please. I think that was something I was supposed to put... I appreciate the help. I definitely do. But, unfortunately, none of this seems to be part of the... Or it seems to be helping figure it out. I don't get it. I don't get it. I guess I'm just gonna have to deal with it today, and hopefully the pop... I don't know. Is it still really noticeable? Is it still really obnoxious in the audio feed? Because I'm almost done with this guy. I think I've got them highlighted. I need to fix that. I think I've got them highlighted up to a point. It comes and goes. Oh. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and try and finish this this little rat lady up. And all I really need to do at this point is fix a streak down here. And rat lady's about as done as I'm gonna get rat lady. And unfortunately, because the camera was going all wonky, I forgot to turn the autofocus back off. That can go over here. Autofocus? Aha! There we go. So, yep. Rat Lady's about as done as I think I'm going to get Rat Lady. It almost sounds like wireless interference, but not the old mobile phone calling interference. That's weird. Like I said, I'm other than a doctor's appointment, I've got nothing today, so I suppose after I get finished with lunch, I'll come back down and I'll start futzing around with it. But who knows? Gosh, I like this model. I think that's all I really want to do with it. I think it looks pretty good. I managed to go ahead and highlight some more of the metal on the chest. I managed to get some of the leather strapping to highlight the little, I guess those are monoculars on their darn it, what's it called? The groin protector, the apron. And actually, let's go ahead and blend that in a little better, because that's just a bit too sharp a contrast for my liking. There we go. Blend it back in. I don't understand. Like you said, all things decay, which is very clearly a thing, but it's my one thing I struggle with technology. I'm not well enough versed in it to understand when things go wrong. I know, somehow pluralizing monocular sounds wrong. Yeah, I know, right? It's like that defeats the purpose of it. Maybe I could do a little bit more highlight on the piping, because the piping look a little bit blah. I think my favorite part about this is I'm an English teacher, so I should probably understand these things and have the vocabulary for it, but it's just not there. Teaching ninth graders, if your computer's heating up and cooling down, which can cause strain on the component, that is true. Like, I definitely get it. It's not in a state of stasis. There is constant changing happening to the computer. It also doesn't help that I'm not going to say I don't treat it well, because I definitely try. But I bring it with me everywhere, so it goes in a backpack, and has to deal with the strain of being in a backpack, so there is going to be general slow degradation of the parts. whether I want it to or not, just from being forced into a confined padded space and then taken out and blah blah blah, yada yada yada. There's a lot of things that make the technology go through its own struggles, and I just need to be better about it. Okay. Just a little bit more contrast on the piping. That's all I'm looking for. Nothing too dramatic. I'm just kind of irked because I spent extra money on this computer to try and make sure it was made of more durable components. Though I guess technically, since it is kind of Asus's, it's not their bottom line gaming computer, but they definitely push the fact that it's got mil-spec durability a whole lot, and then they have their Republic of Gamers line, which is more expensive and clearly made better. Yeah, I know. Mil-spec is very, very baseline. I just figure it's made out of better than the cheapest components. Which, you know, shows my ignorance. Yeah, mil-spec doesn't mean like it's gonna be able to take a gunshot or anything. A Panasonic Toughbook, but they're expensive, not very consumer tier. Yeah, I'm a school teacher. I'd love to be able to afford something considerably nicer, but I'm a school teacher in the United States. I barely make more than a McDonald's manager. So while it would be super nice to be able to afford some of the nicer amenities, they are just not in my pay grade. Okay, let's see what I can do here. That's actually a conversation I have quite often with my buddy Soft Servo, who I work with. He's a co-teacher with me, and we teach remedial English to 9th graders. Gamer laptops, because they don't... Crap, if you don't spring fire, they're real nice from the custom built ones. That is true. I think in this case, it was because I needed a laptop that had a decent graphics processor. Well, I didn't need one, but we were working at the office for the pandemic, and that's when we were doing a lot of like puppetry crap to try and make the stories more appealing, or at least more interesting. And the old laptop I had was taking forever to process the videos, and I figured between the new processor on the newer laptop and the better graphics card, it would vastly speed up the rendering times, and also it would allow me to play certain games that I wanted to play at the time, like Cyberpunk. And so the added benefit of the games was definitely secondary to the being able to render stuff faster. And I was right. Things that were taking an hour and a half on my old laptop now took, 5 to 10 minutes. And I was able to play Cyberpunk, and now I can play things like Darktide. But definitely spent a lot of money on it, and that money could have gone to a desktop, because it was a much better desktop. But live and learn, I guess. Okay, I think I'm ready to stop futzing with this. I keep looking at things and trying to fix them, but I could have bought a Steam Deck 2 years ago. Because I got this with my tax return 2 years ago, I believe. I don't know if that would have been worth it, but it would have been at least interesting. Darn it, I keep seeing new things that I want to fix on this little rat lady, and I keep feeling like at this point I'm painting legs on a snake. But they're just little details that would help make her pop a bit more. So I keep wanting to do it. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. At the very least, wasn't dumb enough to do something like buy collector's edition 30th anniversary booster packs from Magic the Gathering. That that went beyond the pale. I can't believe the kind of silliness that they're going through right now. Wizards of the Coast just seems really intent on shooting themselves in the foot with everything. It's kind of funny watching both them and Elon Musk flail and fail. Okay, so that's done, I guess. I can take some cool pictures of it, set it up later, enter it in the competition. And maybe win some resin. Now, I've got some heavy eradicators that I printed a long time ago. That's not... Yeah, they want money. They are severely under-monetizing the Dungeons & Dragons IP, was the argument that was given. Okay, cool. The popping seems to have stopped, at least for now. Knock on wood. Where am I yellow at? There am I yellow at. Yeah, I know. Right? I want money. I love money. Money's great. I'd love to be paid what my degree entails. But apparently that's a pipe dream. Okay, so. I love these models. These are 3D printed. These are, what she called them, heavy gravity boys, I think is what she called them. But I love the fact that I didn't spend $1 million on them, and I love that they look pretty darn good. I think, yeah, I never finished them. I'm looking at them now and realizing that I hit them. Horizon Worlds Meta's Metaverse stream I watched where they had a stand-up club and you had to pay to clap for the comedian. Oh my god. We're living in the future. Let's see, what can I do to this guy? I think I need to go ahead and peel back some of the yellow or some of the dirt on the pauldrons. That's a bit much. Add some more highlights. Definitely went really hard on the airbrushing of the feet to make them look dirty. I've got some things to do here. What else do I need? Gonna get a little more of that's not the color I want. Gonna get a little more of that. Press F to pay respects. That'll be $5, please. Maybe a little bit of a cream color. Yeah, that'll work. Before the fee. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's really funny to me that the general mood of sci-fi is that capitalism is killing us. But the general mood of any major politician, at least in the United States, because we're so backwards, is that capitalism is the only thing keeping us alive. It's like, I don't think I agree with you, sir. In fact, I believe I disagree with you very strongly. And there have been, you know, very strong hints of this for years and years and years. But I guess since it worked for you, that meant it works for everyone, right? I mean, wasn't that a huge part? I only watched a little bit of it because it was just kind of a little too grim for where me and my wife were emotionally at the time. Yeah, I know, right? But Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a great example of that, because that's kind of what pushes the protagonist into doing what they do, right? Literally everything costs and they can't afford. And in their attempt to get out of that situation, everything was only made worse. So they tried to play by the rules, and clearly that didn't work, so they're pushed to doing something else. I mean, Breaking Bad was basically that. You had a genius chemist who was working as a high school teacher, and the very fact that he got cancer caused him to resort to crime. And of course, there were a whole bunch of other messages and stories and whatnot in there, but it's just like, that was the premise they came up with more than 10 years ago. And it holds just, what do you get? One day older, deeper into... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got a friend who's in that situation right now, and I feel so bad for him. He was homeschooled. He was raised by parents who were staunchly libertarian with the lowercase L. And that they were basically just conservatives who wanted to smoke weed. And so they had some very strange ideas on how to live life, and part of it involved homeschooling him. And then they kept saying he had a GED, but they never gave it to him. And he no longer talks to them, because now that he's made friends outside of that community, he's realized how toxic it all was. But since he doesn't have a GED, he's very limited in the work he can get. And he got himself certified to drive, you know, what are they called?
CDL, commercial driver's license, so that he can drive 18-wheelers and whatnot. And despite that, he can't find a job to save his life. He ended up finally just becoming a bus driver because that was the only job that gave him anywhere near enough money for what he was doing and was steady enough employment. Heavy meta? I don't know. Heavy melta, I think is what you meant to say. I'm still recovering from like 2 days of having crippling allergies that really made me not able to comprehend things. So I'm sorry if I seem incredibly dense. Yeah, I think that's what these are. I like them. I like Eradicators. I like the fact that they're big chonky boys with big chonky guns. And, the fusion cannons do work. Yeah. Heavy meltas. I love them. I think they're great. My friends hate them. The fact that my friends hate them means I take more of them. In both, I love the chonk. I know, right? Gravis troops are the best. The only thing I'll really say is that, fusion cannons are just really friggin' good no matter where you are. And so, taking the heavy meltas is ridiculously dangerous for anything in either game because it just deletes things. And you know, I obviously am going to use this guy as a tank, or these guys as tank hunters. This is the wrong yellow. I grabbed the wrong yellow. Whoops. Okay. Where did... Oh my gosh, I put it away because I thought I could use this yellow. One moment. Gotta go delve it. Since I have them next to either Tor Garadon or the Chapter Master or a chaplain with recitation of focus in 40k, that means that they're hitting on 3s no matter what I do. And possibly on 2s if I haven't moved them. The heavy melta gives them better range, and the damage is always +2 or +4. So it's just, it's a brutal combination of things that does a really good job of deleting, like, bigger enemy units. And since the other half of my army is heavy intercessors and a Redemptor Dreadnought, it just does a really good job of leaving only the small little guys to be mopped up by hails of gunfire. But again, I'm mainly only playing against Adeptus Mechanicus and Orcs. So, for the meta I'm playing in, works really good. Let's see, is that going to work a little better? Because that yellow was a good yellow. It was just way too pale in comparison to what I was using. Votoms. I'm not sure what Votoms are. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that in a second. I'll be honest, if it was built before 40k, then they stole it. I mean, you probably know that already, but 40k sucks when it comes to plagiarism. Which makes their strident anti-piracy, anti-fan art stance even funnier. The Votoms aren't from Destiny, are they? Am I losing my mind? I mean, yes, but Votoms, Japanese military science fiction by Nippon Sunrise. Yeah, they really do. I've never heard of this though. Yeah, then I would not be surprised at all if 40k stole from it. Something to think, I mean, like, these guys in particular, 40k was in 87. These particular guys, though, were very recent. The Gravis armor was 8th edition? Came out at the beginning of 8th edition, right? So, these guys are really new, and so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they got heavy inspiration from... I mean, it's probably very much like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever, and that they didn't look at the Votoms and go, yes, this is what we need, but Votom design has probably inspired countless others, which then went on to inspire 40k, right?
Nice little OVA that takes place in bullet times for like old anime. I'll have to give it I'll have to check it out. I actually haven't watched a whole lot of anime recently. It just hasn't been much in my wheelhouse. But that does sound like something fun to view. Now let's see if I can give this guy just a little bit more zhuzh. Something I enjoyed recently that Soft Servo showed me was Robot Carnival. And found him a newer DVD of it for Christmas a couple years ago, and he was pretty excited because he had like an old one that he thought was the only way he was going to find the damn thing. It is kind of neat seeing how anime has evolved over the years from where it started to where it is now, and what they focused on and what they thought was interesting to look at. Probably the rawness of it. I don't know. That's something I enjoyed about it. New anime. I mean, I don't want to drag new anime because I like a lot of new anime too, but sometimes it just looks a little too refined and a little too streamlined, I guess. And it just feels like I'm watching the same thing with a slightly different coat of paint. But that's entirely my opinion. I guarantee you there are a million people out there that feel differently than me. Well, of course there are, because modern anime is popular. But I just kind of get tired of looking at it. Though that is not to say anyone else can't enjoy. People are allowed to have hobbies. I mean, I'm playing friggin' 40K. Speaking of stagnation. Why is this how badly did I airbrush these guys? Because I definitely used Averland Sunset as my airbrush color, and now I'm using Averland Sunset to cover them back up. But they've got this really strong Kraft macaroni and cheese orange look on. Yeah, exactly. But no, once I kind of got out of college, my hobby interest shifted greatly. And so anime kind of fell to the wayside. The only one that I really enjoyed that I still kind of keep up with, because it had such a big influence on my life, was Hajime no Ippo. And that's because Ippo was a boxing anime that really got me into boxing. And that's been a huge part of my life since then, especially once I started boxing. So, I'm not reading it anymore, and obviously they haven't made new episodes for it in a long time. But that's the last big anime I really watched a lot. I also watched JoJo, because I had a ton of friends who watched JoJo, so I started picking it up too. But JoJo is so darn convoluted. It gets so weird so fast that it becomes kind of hard to keep up with. I was watching My Hero Academia for a while. Thought that was really good. Kind of stopped after, I don't even remember the names of the arcs. I don't care enough. I do appreciate the more bombastic action animation that they have now, because they've been so heavily influenced by a few specific animators. And I think it definitely brings a lot more to it. My goodness. I really made these guys dirty without a clue of how to fix it. JoJo's the right kind of weird for me, where they can explain the situations. Here's a giant lord dump. Yeah. I think my issue with JoJo comes from how as a manga it reads perfectly. The pacing is great. Everything works because it's all just kind of internally monologued in your own head, and you can read it at your pace, which is fine for me. But since they have to have the actors speak out the lines, it slows everything down to a crawl, and it makes a lot of the explanations feel very convoluted. Which sucks, because as a whole, I really like JoJo. I like the art style, I like the creativity of Araki. I generally like the characters, but it just feels like we spend a lot of time covering things that only need a moment's notice. But I can't hate on JoJo too much. It's too darn good a show. Though I will say, his characterization does get pretty funky. It gets really inconsistent. I couldn't stand Golden Wind, which makes me sad, because Golden Wind is really well loved by a lot of people. But I just found myself frustrated and irritated for most of it, because of the characters and just the general storyline. Good evening, Montravan. How's it going? I'm complaining about new anime. Well, specifically, I'm complaining about JoJo, but that's because I'm not sure what to do with this guy. I've overly dirtied him, and now that I'm trying to bring him back up to not look like he's rolled around in the mud, I'm not super happy with how he's turning out. Finished a rat lady, who I was really happy with, and now I've moved on to this, and now I'm questioning my choices. I think what's gonna have to happen, one moment please. Cool. I'll complain about the new Ghost in the Shell and you can't stop me. Go for it. I've only ever seen the one movie and I loved it. I have not seen any further Ghost in the Shell. And I'm scared to, because I know the original show was good. I know the original movie slapped harder. Painting him dark green, give him a... Can't do that, unfortunately. It doesn't fit in with the chapter that I am playing. What I'm trying to do is bring his yellow back to an acceptable yellow without getting rid of all of the dirt that he has on him. I don't know what it's the 3D style. That I don't understand why they keep moving to the 3D style. It can only be done well by certain people, and unfortunately, it's not very common. It looks bad on a lot of things. I really don't like it. It's got weird Uncanny Valley stuff. I've seen, I think Studio Orange is the one who does a lot of the 3D stuff, and theirs tends to look pretty okay. But it's not good. They have these super smartsmen, they just super good at combat and dodging bullets. It feels to me like they've really missed the point of Ghost in the Shell if that's how they're playing it. That is unfortunate. That is super duper unfortunate. The movie was so darn good. I think that's about all I want to do to this guy. I'm scared of overdoing it and getting rid of the shadows that the wash has created. I think from now on, I just ought to stay the hell away from the washes and just paint them up manually. Even the airbrushing is starting to take a hit. That's okay. Because, yeah, the colors on these guys got really super saturated. And I think it's the wash doing it. I don't know, I feel like, contemporary Japanese storytelling in a lot of their more mainstream animes is losing me. Some of the philosophizing that's done just feels very poorly thought out. Or Legend of the Galactic Heroes remake. I have no clue what that is. But I do worry about remakes. I kind of feel like we don't need a lot of the remakes we have because the originals were fine. Kind of how I feel about Primaris. We don't need Primaris. Give me Firstborn. Make them true scale. You weren't afraid to do it for the Horus Heresy. Do it for big 40k. Cowards. Which, I mean, it looks like they're trying to do anyway. They had those Space Marine Heroes blind box things that are true scale. Either increase the... I mean, I don't know. I don't like the... I understand they're moving the plot forward. I don't like Primaris, as I paint Eradicators. I'd rather have a set of Devastators. Give me a set of true scale Devastators. Make me happy. Anime series based on series books, originally made in '88, and I hated it first but started liking it as I got older. Isn't that always the weird thing? You see something when you're younger? This is stupid, I hate it. Start watching it as you're older? This is great. I don't know what was wrong with me. Why was I so angry? Lots of space combat, lots of politics. More of that fun sci-fi. The one anime that I've really wanted to watch, like just sit down and watch, but I haven't really had the time to do so, has been, oh my god, I forgot what it's called. I've got it on my computer. It's a classic fantasy anime. that originally started as like a D&D campaign that the person turned into a series of novels, and for the life of me, I cannot remember its name. Wanted more action, but it's kind of slow. It goes very brutal. That's fair. I mean, as a kid, you probably didn't appreciate the build-up and the payoff aspect of it, and just wanted more payoff, because as a kid, we want big explosions, right? But now that you're older, you can kind of appreciate it. Kind of like me with wrestling. I'm a big fan of pro wrestling. Unfortunately, the WWE is all I've got over here, and it's okay for what it is, but I'm definitely finding myself caring about and enjoying, oh dear, different wrestlers now that I'm older. What's going on here? Oh, a moment, please. I'm gonna move that away so hopefully it doesn't pulse too awkwardly. So long as hell without having filler episodes. Well, at the very least, that just means that there's a lot of substantial episodes and substantial things happening, even if it's doing so at a methodical pace. That was something I appreciated about, like, I hate to go back to it, but Breaking Bad, is that Breaking Bad went on for a long time, but it felt like something meaningful happened, you know? In every episode, even if it wasn't groundbreaking each time. Okay. I need to get a new Zero brush, because I don't have a tip to this one, because I have ruined it by beating the crap out of the brush and using it for paints that it shouldn't have been used for. You know what? It's doing fine for what it is. These guys are just going to be my own personal army. They don't need to be perfect. I just want them to look better than they did. 110 episodes and then some surrounding movies and offshoot animes. That is an impressive thing, though. You know, if it was... The fact that it managed to go that long with the content it had should tell you how good it is, right? That's kind of the fun of those things, is you think it's really esoteric and you're like, man, I can't believe people watch this, and then you realize, no, people did watch it. They watched it so much that they had 8 seasons of it. And that's always really cool to find out. Makes me, at least, you know, makes you feel a little less alone. Okay, yeah, these guys are something of a disaster. I really should have just painted them manually. The coloring on them is so wildly inconsistent. Okay, let's go ahead and... Man, what if Dune had an anime? That's another thing. I wasn't into Dune. I finally saw the new movie with a friend who was much bigger into Dune, and I definitely understand the appeal. But I don't know. Maybe I need to try and reread the books again. But it just wasn't really my thing, which is weird because of how much I like Warhammer. But I think it lacks the thing to draw me in that Warhammer has, right? It's an amazingly created world, and the intricacy that's gone into it is fantastic. Also, did you know that Christopher Walken is going to be playing... Oh my god, who was he playing? He's going to be in the next Dune movie. I can't remember the character. It's someone that's... The new Dune movie was really good. Yeah, I thought that movie was fantastic. They absolutely nailed it. And, again, Soft Servo is the one who's much more into this stuff than I am. He really loved it. He thought it was fantastic. Christopher Walken is playing Shaddam IV. I don't know who that is, because I don't... One moment, where is he? The Emperor of House Carino. Okay. So yeah, he's playing that character, which is amazing, because in like a weird little coincidence, you know the music video for Weapon of Choice by Fatboy Slim? Like 10 books was written. Wow, they really killed that. 10 books written over 5 years. That is some impressive work ethic. I know, right? George R.R. Martin is blushing right now. I mean, I suppose the author was just really, really into it. Okay. Yeah, Christopher Walken dancing around, flying in the air. First of all, he's apparently an accomplished dancer, which I think is amazing. And he specifically wanted to do that part because he knew that his health was deteriorating, like he was just getting too old, and he wanted to have some final attempt, some final hurrah to showcase his dancing skills, and that's why he basically volunteered to be in that Weapon of Choice music video. But one of the lyrics in that was "Walk without rhythm and you won't." What was it? Walk without rhythm and you won't disturb the worm. I can't remember the exact line because I'm not a bright man. Walk without rhythm, and it won't attract the worm. That's it. Yeah, which is a line from Dune. And so, you know, some 20 years later, here he is playing a major character in Dune. And it's just like, wow. I love it. And my understanding, at least again from talking to Soft Servo, is that he's going to absolutely nail that role because Christopher Walken does crazy well. And he's also a good actor. So he's not going to make the role, to like ruin the role, and I'm excited. As someone who's not super interested in Dune, I'm excited to see that movie, to see him in that movie. Light. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's my understanding, is it was a fun movie, it was visually interesting, but it was not a good movie. You know what I mean? Well, you know what I mean, you're saying the same thing. But I've never seen it. I know that they have a sandworm in there that's a much better representation of a mature sandworm than was in the new Dune movie, but that was most likely not a mature sandworm in the new Dune movie. I'm always impressed when movies like that get made, because it just feels like, you know, they have their audience, and their audience is passionate, their audience is very dedicated and is willing to throw a ton of money at it, but it just feels like the mainstream is just going to not look at it and not care. Which is upsetting, because there's some real quality work out there that has a very passionate fan base that just kind of gets brushed over by the general audience, the general viewing audience. And we loot the original idea for the Lynch movie was supposed to have 3 of them, but then they had to squeeze it all into one. Oh, kind of like the Bakshi movie for Lord of the Rings. That movie was interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, but he was trying to make all 3 of them. You mean Ultramarine? What a disaster. I think my least favorite thing about that is I have heard that, like, the biggest thing about it is that Dan Abnett helped write it, right? And Dan Abnett is kind of like the guy for 40K fiction. He kind of standardized a lot of it, built a lot of what we consider to be the 40K world. But that's actually a bit of a misnomer. I read recently, after watching that movie, that he gave it a quick treatment at the very beginning of the creative process and then moved on to other things. And he also, at the time, was not super comfortable writing Space Marines because he was more interested in, or like better at writing the more human characters. So when Ultramarine was going into pre-production, he was doing the write-up for it, he still wasn't very comfortable working on them. And like his big foray into the Space Marines and getting to kind of toy with them as characters was the first Horus Heresy book. And I'm not sure how that works out in the timeline of development of those things, but like, it makes sense why that movie's not very good. I also read that that movie went way over production value or production budget, and the company that was making the movie, the studio that was made to make the movie, was made to make the movie. And then it kind of disappeared after that one movie got made. And so it was kind of a doomed venture from the start. Gosh, I think I'm going to print another set of these guys and do a better job, because I don't like this slapdash finish I've got on them. It's kind of making painting them very difficult. But, yeah, I'd seen the movie when I was in college about 15 years ago, to further age myself. And I remember thinking it was stupid and hating it. And this was before I was at all into 40K. I tried playing Space Marine at the same time, and I thought Space Marine was contrived garbage. Like, it was just a generic action game with these overbuilt dudes fighting these Cockney orcs. And there was nothing about that appealed to me, because I just didn't get it. And now that I'm older, now that I'm more into the 40K lore, Space Marine is one of my favorite games, and I'm super excited for the second one. But I distinctly remember watching Ultramarine and thinking it looked bad. The dialogue was awkward and bad. The action sequences were underwhelming. There was no punch to them, and just generally hating it. And then I watched it again last year after being much further into the 40K lore. At that point, I think I was about 20 books deep into the Horus Heresy, and I don't hate the movie anymore, but I definitely don't like it. It's fun to watch as like a, hey, here's this terrible thing we can all stare at agape. But, it's a hard watch. It's a really, really hard watch. Soft Servo loves collecting bad movies. He just enjoys, like, the process and just seeing them be bad. And I remember watching it with him, and he just was jaw open, like, stroking his beard as he tried to figure out what the hell was going on with this movie. Yeah, go play some Ring Fit. I'm gonna go have lunch soon, so that's when I'm gonna actually sign off. So thanks for joining me. Go get some exercise. That's something I need to get doing. Have a good rest of your evening or day. Well, I guess for you it'd be evening. Have a good rest of your evening. Oh my goodness. Poor Ultramarine. At the very least, for anyone still here, it seems like Games Workshop is pretty decent at learning from their mistakes. So whereas Ultramarine was a humongous bungle and blunder, and I don't even know if that movie, I don't think that movie did well, they've clearly gotten better at their storytelling. I'm not saying that they're perfect. They continue to screw up, don't get me wrong. They don't always come back better. But like, Warhammer Plus, well, I mean, like, even before Warhammer Plus was a thing, they very definitely realized that they had some shortcomings that they needed to fix. Their videos for their promotional material, like, better fine cast from China, better sculpts from the same models. Yeah, no, their fine casts are ass, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're, like, constantly improving and always getting better. They definitely have that 2 steps forward, 3 steps back issue. But, I mean, I'm painting a 3D printed model right here. I'm very aware that they have their problems. But, like, they definitely have tried to improve in a lot of ways. They realized their community outreach was terrible, so they started Warcom, and they started having a better community outreach. It's not perfect, but it's definitely an attempt or a move in the right direction. You know, their videos for their stuff was substandard, and so they started hiring better graphic artists, and they have, like, the 9th edition, the Indomitus box preview with the Sisters of Battle fighting the Necrons, and then they realized that their animation content could be better, so they started poaching independent artists for Warhammer TV and screwed that up. And, like, you know, because Warhammer TV sucks. But they realized that maybe they shouldn't do their own subscription-based system because there's not an audience for it. So now they're reaching out to, like, Amazon to try and get Amazon to start formulating a Warhammer TV series, and they've even got, like, Henry Cavill joining on maybe, and apparently they've emphasized that they're not going to try and do anything to harm the IP. You know, just stuff like that. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. They're a publicly traded company. but it's clearly better than it could have been, or than it was, is more what I'm getting at, you know? Their games for a long time were trash because they were just dumping them to any company that claimed that they could make a game for them. And while they're still doing that, they're also releasing things like Darktide and Mechanicus and Chaos Gate Demon Hunters and eventually Space Marine 2. So, you know, blind nut finds a squirrel, even a blind squirrel finds some nuts, whatever the term is. I'm already fumbling it. But they're clearly trying to do better and increase the quality of their IP. Yeah. Oh yeah, and they've had like Total War and all those other things. They've had some really bad missteps, but I don't want to take too far away from the things they've done well. I haven't been excited for a game as I have been for Darktide in years, almost a decade. And in a lot of ways, Darktide was a bit of a fumble, but it's a brandy new game with like a whole lot of new things that they're trying to do, and it doesn't surprise me that the game's not perfect, you know? So the fact that they're making these strides tells me at least they're trying. And they're actively learning from their mistakes. They're not trying to double down on their stupidity in a lot of ways. I mean, the fact that they switched how they do data balance, or balances and data slates and whatnot, another great example. It's still not perfect, but it's better than where it was, right? Like, the season of Triptides is no longer a thing because they can quickly edit and modify their data slates. Okay, these still don't look great, but they look better, and I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna print some more and hand paint them. This is a speed paint that I cannot really clean up too much. Have you heard of Station Forge? I love Station Forge. I have Station Forge. The Mega Steppa that I was painting earlier, like probably when I first started streaming. I don't know if you saw it. I'm pretty sure you did. That's a Station Forge model. They did an absolutely freaking amazing Onager Doomcrawler, which looks like it came out of Ghost in the Shell, and so I printed and painted that for Soft Servo to be a secondary Onager Doomcrawler. I love their Grimguard. The only thing I don't like by them actually is their Space Marines. I think they're ugly. I don't know if you've seen their Space Marines, but I just think they're stupid looking. One moment, Patreon. Someone is trying to get rid of a Dark Imperium box set and start collecting orcs for free. Totally free. I'm in the northeast of England. I mean, frick, man, I would just go ahead and pay him for that stuff. That's amazing. Oh, I've got messages. Let's see what hateful things. Oh. Okay. Oh, that was the 12th. I've already gotten those. Station Forge. What do we have here? Their Deathcore models are amazing. I haven't printed any of them, but they look so freaking good. I printed their Gaunt's Ghosts. Their version of the Gaunt's Ghosts. Okay, no problem. But yeah, have you seen their Gaunt's Ghosts models? I don't remember what they call them, like the Orc Hunters or something. Oh, that's a really neat model. The Pythonicus Squad. Fairly early, not a lot of details have been added. Also that... Oh, not all the heads will be Plague Doctor style. Those are so good looking. Okay. Hey, cool. They have a frontliner. I don't know what that is. But yeah, no, I've been universally impressed with Station Forge and the quality of their models and the quality of their supports. Like I said, I'm just not the biggest fan of how their Space Marines look. I don't like them. I don't really know how else to put it, but I just think that their Space Marines are clumsy looking. Where can I go? Browser. The Death Bikers for the core. Probably. I've been a Patreon of theirs, or a patron of theirs for about a year now. Probably a little more than a year. And I think, like I said, all their non-Space Marine models look fantastic.
If I was more interested in starting a guard army, I would definitely just use theirs. I wouldn't bother to buy any official Games Workshop stuff because theirs are just so darn good. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I'm gonna start working with metallics. I don't see a point in buying Games Workshop when Station Forge is so clearly understood the assignment. So that's where I am with Station Forge. I know, right? It's like, what's the point? What you call it? They've already done so good a job. Why would you need to care about Games Workshop? But no, I like Games Workshop's Space Marines. I like the Custodies. But yeah, there's like the AdMech that they've made.
The Scavengers look fantastic. The there we go. That's what I want. The everything that Station Forge has done, as far as I'm concerned, has made me discard proper 40k. They don't do anything. Games Workshop doesn't do anything with their guard, with their AdMech, that makes me care about it or want it more than just the fact that I can print it myself with Station Forge. And it's getting that way with one-page rules, because one-page rules' releases are just of increasingly higher quality, and they look great. Like they've got 2/3 of their Battle Sisters lineup done, and while they're clearly not Sisters of Battle, they're close enough to Sisters of Battle that I don't care. Their Battle Sisters line looks phenomenal, and so I'm not buying any more Sisters of Battle. Actually, I might buy Morven Ball. I really like the character models. But it's just like, what's the point? This other company has just done such a tremendous job. And that's something I really want to do more of as I paint, is just, especially on this channel, is promote some of the smaller brands like...
Oh, is it locked again? Is promote people like Station Forge and One Page Rules, because their stuff is so good.
I'm really sad that I had such a crummy weekend, because I would have been painting some Station Forge models. I would have been painting some, gosh, I forgot what they're called, Crypta Studios. They do these great fantasy models, and I love how they look, and I feel like they deserve more of a platform. The one thing I will say that Games Workshop has that none of these 3D printing companies have, and something I will never get with 3D printing, is the joy that I get out of assembling their models. Like, that's just a personal thing, and that's not for everyone, and I'm not saying that people should do that, but I really, really like putting together Games Workshop models.
Beyond that, though, why is everything malfunctioning today? I don't want to make you guys sick. But beyond that, I just don't have much of an interest in Games Workshop anymore. Minis when I can buy 1,000 worth for less. Exactly. I mean, like, for example, if I spend $90, I could have a Warhound Titan by Saturday. You know what I mean? Instead of spending $500 for a Warhound Titan, I could buy the printer to print the Warhound Titan for that money. So it feels way too much. And the thing is, it's going to be made out of resin anyway, so what am I saving by printing the resin myself? A lot of headaches is what I'm saving. But no, I do think that there are some things they do really well. Like I said, I like the assembling of the models. I find that to be obscenely fun. This is the wrong color. That's okay. I can use it. I think for some of their more fiddly bits, yeah, their pricing upsets me greatly. What color did I grab? This is not the color I thought it was gonna be. I think I meant to go for a gold, and what did I grab? I grabbed... Oh dear, I don't even remember what color I just grabbed. Was it hammered copper, I guess? Oh well, it's gonna look fine. That's been my biggest deterrent, and I feel bad because we have a game store in the area that's already
yeah, that's kind of the plan. We have a game store in the area that's already kind of hurting because Star City Games, which is a much bigger game store, went from being primarily Magic the Gathering. They've decided instead that they're going to be a more general purpose store. So now they're selling Warhammer and Games Workshop and the like. And because they're a bigger store and they can afford the hit, they've got their Warhammer stuff at 10% off, right? And the other store is way too small, and he can't afford that. Yeah, but Magic's economy right now is all over the place because of all the reprints and the lack of in-person play and the fact that they've got to recover from that. But yeah, so they've gone over to doing 40K and other things too. Like they're doing Dungeons and Dragons and they're doing Funkos, which I have learned to hate. They've got all sorts of other nerd collectibles, which is great. Fine, cool. We have a much more dedicated nerd shop. Fantastic. But yeah, he's doing his best. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit him really hard, and as far as I know, he's had to basically fire all of his employees. And but like Mishap is well loved. The people who go to Mishap are fiercely loyal to it. The owner itself is a really nice guy, and but unfortunately, he's got like a degenerative eye issue, and he upgraded. Like they were doing well enough that he used to be in a double in one of those strip malls, and where one side was the store and the other side was the gaming area, and he was doing well enough. Now, when he focused full in onto wargaming and tabletop games, that he was able to move to an old tiki restaurant. Welcome back. Glad to see you again. And that was cool. It's like, great, he has more space. This old tiki restaurant, which is still my favorite thing in the world, they have a bottom floor, which was more of like a bar dance area that he wanted to turn into a gaming area with like food you could buy and an actual open bar. Well, not open bar, but you know what I mean. I don't drink, I'm sorry. But then right as he was moving, the pandemic hit. And so a lot of that got slowed down tremendously and kind of messed him up really badly. And he sells Games Workshop stuff. He sells Warhammer. He sells Corvus, or he sells a little bit of Corvus Belli. He sells Fallout. He sells War Machine. What's the other really big popular? Mech Warrior. That's it, Mech Warrior. So he's got a lot of stuff there. Don't get me wrong. He's got a huge amount of stuff, but he can't afford to sell it at any kind of discount, right? And that really sucks because people can now go to Star City Games and get many of the same models for 10% less, and that's what a lot of people do because they're not worried about Mech Warrior, Star Wars, Marvel. He's got all that too, which is great. I don't play those games, but I love that he's got like shelves of that stuff. But yeah, he obviously can't compete with Star City Games with their pockets. So I'm doing everything I can to try and help support him. I've directed a lot of people to his store. But like I've stopped buying a lot of Warhammer minis because why? I've got a 3D printer, right? I mean, he's got one too, don't get me wrong. When I first really started going there, when I first really started getting into it, he was having a promotion where if you bought a squad and painted them up for the new kill team, you'd get 30% of that box's credit, right? And I asked him, would it count if I 3D printed some parts to him? And he's like, yeah, as long as the unit is still recognizable as the unit, I don't care. So people bring in fully 3D printed armies and rent, and they don't even reserve tables. They just walk in and get a table and everything's good. But he's just generally a really cool, chill guy, and it makes me sad that I don't think he's being choked out because he's got a lot of loyal customers, but that he can't afford to do some of the things bigger businesses can do. Okay. Fortunately, now I've got to let these things dry. I have a muzzle burn recipe that I blatantly stole off the internet, which all artists do, right? I don't know if you know good muzzle burn or a better recipe. You probably do because you've been doing this a lot longer than me. But there's a guy called The Painting Coach on YouTube, and he tries to do very simple but very effective painting techniques. And so for his muzzle burn, why is it not focusing? He takes, he paints it with Balthazar Gold. Wow, why is it not focusing? Is it these guys? Which I obviously didn't take. And then he hits it with some Nuln Oil. What is it doing? Come on. Focus. Thank you. Hits it with some Nuln Oil to darken it down. And then he hits about half of it with True Chi Violet as a wash. And then he hits a quarter of it with, what's the blue he uses? Drakenhof Nightshade. And then he highlights some of the edges with a lighter gold, and that's it. And it makes really great looking muzzle burn. So if anyone is interested in doing muzzle burn, that is definitely an easy way to go. It always looks good. But I need to let these guys rest for a second, so I'm going to do that. And unfortunately let the camera pulse again. Oh my goodness. What else I got to do? I'm going to let those dry for a second. Oh, speaking of Mr. Motorhead, did I show you the Cataphracti armor that I found? Speaking of 3D printing? The Void Walker suits is what they were calling them to avoid copyright. And I'm not done painting the guy, but I really like this model. He's supposed to be, you know, I watch a lot of Monument Hobbies, Vince Venturella. Yeah, I watch Vince Venturella, and I'm just in awe of that man's abilities. I know he's been painting for forever, and he does a lot of it all the time, but he is such a phenomenal painter. And a cool guy. So yeah, this is a Void Walker. Yeah, I know, right? He's Cataphracti Terminator. He's bigger than True Scale. I really like how they look. I spent a pretty penny to get them because the author or the creator really wanted to be fairly compensated, but I think they're worth every penny. He also has Tartaros pattern ones that I'm going to use to make some. Then I'm going to Jarhead from Massive Voodoo gets very good painting workshops. That's pretty cool. I gotta find more of these guys because I have a Ben Repaints YouTube channel, and I use that primarily to upload these videos, and I use it to collect painting tutorials. Terminators, yeah, they should be bigger. The current scale of them is just way too tiny. So hopefully, what's really going to make me sad, and I know they're going to do this, is that they're going to release Primaris Terminators. And I don't want Primaris Terminators. I want Terminators. Primaris have Gravis. That Gravis was specifically created to be their answer to Terminators, because Terminator armor is sacred and rare and whatever else. So, like, what are you doing? Just give me Terminators. Re-release them bigger. But yeah, there are a lot of really great true scale Terminator models out there now. I love the community for making them bigger, making them better proportioned. Yeah, and Terminators should look like behemoths on the battlefield. And I guess at the old scale they did, but at the new scale, there's some of the smallest models out there, and they just kind of look squat. Actually, were you here when I did the slap chop real quick to speed paint a Terminator to show? Oh my gosh, I forgot his name. Another person who appears pretty frequently on here. He's got shaky hands and was worried about like painting his minis well, so I tried to show him the slap chop method. So right, you got the Gravis model. The Gravis models are a little bigger to begin with. Here's a true scale Terminator that someone's made, and you see they're about the size of a Gravis, and they're really hunched over. I like their model. I can obviously make them a little bigger, but I like that proportionately there's still very much that Terminator silhouette. And I painted him. I don't think I used any contrast paints on him. I just hit him with watered down red and watered down blue. I might have used the contrast paint on the bottom half, but yeah, these are great looking models, and they've got like chapter specific stuff for them. So I used chapter specific Imperial Fist. They did a darn good job. And then there is a guy who made what he called the Exothrifts, which again, don't know if you saw those, but those ones are like true scale Terminators on steroids. He took the silhouette of the Terminator and made everything bigger and meaner. And if you haven't seen those, I've got some. And honestly, they're my favorite Terminator model. I love the proportions that he gave them because they're not true scale in that they didn't try and keep them like proportionate. You know what I mean? Everything looks way too big. And it just makes them look like, if I saw that at the end of the hallway, even though they have those ridiculous, hippo-faced heads, and they're clearly not proportionate, I would still run screaming. They look fantastic, and I love them. And I have a squad of them with storm bolters and power fists for my fists right now. And I think even after I finish with those Cataphracti ones, I'm still keeping the other ones because they just look so darn good. In fact, if you give me a second, now that I'm finishing up these, they need time to dry, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then, yeah, there is some weird like electronics issue happening right now, and that's what's causing all this pulsing. Move these back out of the way, and let me go get those other Terminators so you can see. One moment. Here we are. I think I might have shown them off on the stream before, but I don't recall. But like, tell me that. Oh, come on! I can do this. I can do this. Tell me that's not a good Terminator sculpt. I accidentally got some gold on him when I didn't mean to, and I didn't notice until I had already fixed him up. But tell me that is not a good Terminator sculpt. His fist is obnoxiously huge, and it looks great. The Storm Bolter's really big. Hey, Ohana Hobby Workshop, good to see you. I'm just showing off a 3D printed Terminator. I think the model actually got taken down, but just really appreciating the proportions of this model, right? The current Terminator sculpt, way too tiny. The new ones look great. Here's another one. And I mean, just look at him. Dude looks great. The autocannon is huge. Again, big, massive power fist. Just a really good-looking model. And I really love these guys. He also did Assault Terminators with Power Claws or Thunder Hammers and Storm Shields. But I think, again, those got taken down. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm finishing painting these guys because... yeah, they didn't. They took it down, like, immediately. Well, not immediately. I just remember he recently put up new... he didn't call them Tactical Marines, but they're Tactical Marines. And same thing, the sculpts are beautiful. Unfortunately, I can't get the arms to fit in properly because of how I did it. But yeah, working on these guys, I went way too hard with the wash on them when I first painted them, and I struggled to cover them back up, so I decided, screw it, I'm gonna go ahead and get the muzzle burn up and running, which it's almost there, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish it off. Pardon the pulsing of the camera, by the way. I'm having some electrical issues, so there's probably some popping coming from the mic, and it's also causing problems with the camera where it's struggling to autofocus. Okay, which I think I'll use you, which I probably a bad idea, but that's okay. Okay. But yeah, Games Workshop was not super happy when they saw those models, is my understanding, and that's why they're not there anymore. But he still has his Assault Marines up there; those look fantastic. He still has his he actually just recently put up a Terminator Captain in the Exothrift style, and once again, it's fire. It looks fantastic. I downloaded it immediately and paid for it because he needs to have my money. But I really just I don't want to keep messing with the Primaris. I say as I paint more Primaris. I want to go back to true scale Firstborns. I like the Firstborns. I want to go back to them. Actually, give me a minute. I don't really want to out this guy, but I can at least... I know, right? One moment. Let's fix the autofocus again so it stops pulsing. Stop. And, oh, you need to see these, because, you know, the Tactical Marines have a clear silhouette. They have a clearly iconic look, and that's fine. I personally have always struggled with them because I felt like the Tactical Marines always looked like gorillas.
since they had the skinny little legs and the excuse me, and the really long, thick arms. And it's like, that's an artistic choice. It's fine. It is what it is, but it's not my favorite look. And so, I really jumped at the opportunity to try and get better true scale models. And, I found others. Like, they did great Mark VI Marines, and they look fantastic, and I love them. So that was really nice to see. And I found ones for Horus Heresy that are Mark IIIs and Mark IIs and Mark IVs that look great. But the only ones I cannot find to save my life were the Mark VIIs, like the ones that are in the traditional tactical squad, right? But then this guy released these, and I love them. They're perfect. They're exactly what I wanted. It's the same guy who released the Terminator models, and they look just as good. The only problem is that the way he's got them built is, instead of just giving them flat cuts at the shoulder so that you can just put the arms in, he's made these concave depressions where that slot in like a ball joint. But the ball joint itself isn't very good. And so I can't get them to fit properly. I just want a generic... Yeah, I know, they are really cool, right? I just want a bunch of them carrying the gun at ease, so I can have a true scale tactical squad that'll fit in with the rest of my guys. But because of how he's built them, they just don't fit right. And I've tried carving it out to make it fit better, and it's such a fight. It doesn't work. And so this was his first release of this model. He's got to do some test runs on it, and he's going to get some trial and error feedback. But I can't wait for him to finish tweaking them, because they just look so darn good. Speaking of so darn good, look at that muzzle burn. That muzzle burn looks really neat. I'm happy with that muzzle burn. I'm going to talk up my own muzzle burn. It's muzzly and burny, and that's all that matters. Okay. I think I need to up the highlight a little on this guy. Let's see. Gonna hit that a little harder. Gonna hit that a little harder. And all I'm doing is taking a brighter gold, hitting it over the burnished copper. Yeah. That's the one I already did. Got the last boy. And then once I'm done with this, it's 1 o'clock where I am. I need to go eat some lunch because I have a doctor's appointment at about 2:30, because my body has decided that even though for most of my life I have not had sinus and allergy issues, I'm going to start having sinus and allergy issues. And they're keeping me up awake at night and making it so my quality of sleep and my just existence has become drastically less convenient for me. So hopefully they will be able to help me with that situation. Okay. That's all it really needs. It's fine. It is what it is. I've already bought some air purifiers for the house, and they're helping a little bit, but now it's becoming an issue that whenever the temperature changes and it becomes more humid or moist for whatever reason, like rainfall, I die. I just physically stop existing. Yeah, that's been a thought. My wife joked that they ought to just take a drill and shove it up my nose and clear out the entire sinus cavity. As a tradesperson, my nose is done. Yeah. I used to work remodeling with my father, and that meant I was inhaling all sorts of, detritus and dust and paraphernalia and whatnot. But, like I said, for the most part, I've been fine. Okay, so the eradicators are closer to done. I'm okay with the dry brushing I did on them. I'm okay with the muzzle burn. I'm not too fond of the shading. I'm probably just going to have to paint a new set to a higher quality so I can feel more comfortable using them. Those guys are done. Oh, my rat is done. My rats. This is going to be part of a competition that I'm going to be entering for one-page rules. I don't remember if you were here or not when I mentioned this, but this is... No, I do not. I don't have sleep apnea. Welcome back, by the way. My teeth grind. My teeth grind, which is a huge issue, but I have a mouth guard for that. But yeah, so this is a Ratman from One Page Rules, and this is their Rat Priest. They went more of a noble kind of
weird tech punk thing than the Skaven from Age of Sigmar. But this is what I'm going to enter for a painting contest. So I need to get some pretty pictures of it eventually, and before the end of the month, and submit them. Well, actually, I think it's by the 23rd, so I better get on that. Finish this one up today. Really like how she turned out. That's also what I was working on.
What else do I got? Eventually, I need to paint Yvraine. This is from 3D Art Guy. He called her like an elf warrior, female elf warrior or something, and her pet.
So I gotta go ahead and paint her. I think, to be honest, I'm gonna be a little lazy. I'm gonna slap chop her and then do what I can with that. But this is more for a friend, so he has a display. He's got Amarnius Calgar. Turns out I've been suffering from sleep apnea, ADHD, and possibly autism for all my life, and I find this out in my 30s.
That is a little unfortunate, but at least you found out now instead of much, much, much later, right? Because you're still at a point where you're not so ingrained in your ways of life that you can't fix it, hopefully. And thankfully, our stigma towards mental health is starting to deteriorate, and that means that we can start treating it and taking it seriously.
Which I think is pretty darn fantastic.
Okay, that's going to be good for that, so I can put that away. That's something that especially as a school teacher bugs the hell out of me, is that
We've stigmatized a lot of these things so badly that they end up going untreated for way too long. And it causes people just in general... Yeah, the rats from Titanforge are really nice. I feel like, by and large, a lot of the bigger studios just do great work. I will be honest, if it wasn't for their prices, I would probably have a whole Space Marine army made up of the Strikers from, oh my gosh, why can't I remember? Puppets War. I'd probably have a whole set of the Strikers from Puppets War. I think they look fantastic. They're close enough to not being Space Marines while still maintaining a really cool visual style. I love them to death. Yeah, there's I think we're living in something of a golden age for wargaming, and it just blows my mind how good a lot of the independent people are becoming at doing this game. So it just excites me to see where we're gonna go from there.
Okay, that's done. I'm trying to think if there's anything else fun that I can show you that I've worked on or finished or whatever. I kind of finished Fulgrim. I'm not really happy with how he turned out. But he is a shrunken down model. There's my Fulgrim. Let's go ahead and... Boop. So this was a Fulgrim I was working on. I feel like because of how tiny and distinct his details were, everything kind of got lost. And I got frustrated and hit him with a couple washes, which kind of made everything look even weirder. It is what it is. It's not a bad model. I don't think it turned out terribly, but I definitely felt the pain of a 2K printer because some of the details on him just didn't show up. I will say I'm happy that I recovered for his face, though, because that was definitely a struggle. It didn't look very good when it started, and it definitely looks better now that it's done. So, I'm probably going to print him bigger and try again. But until then, this is kind of what he's going to look like for now. What's his name? 3D Art Guy does some amazing sculpts, and I can't wait to see where else he's going. He's got two of Alfarius Omegon that I really want to work on. I own a Anycubic Photon Mono SE. When it came out, it was like a low level or a mid-level enthusiast printer. And it was good for what it was. It's a 2K printer. It's got about a 6.6-inch build screen. And it works well enough. Like, I really shouldn't be complaining too much because everything I've painted today has been 3D printed. And unless you're really looking, it's hard to tell, right? Like, everything about this guy, except for his base, is 3D printed. His base is plastic, but I think it's a third-party one. But everything about him is 3D printed. And if you look really closely, like on his head and his helmet, you can kind of see the mold line, or like the layer lines. where it kind of ripples. But when you're looking at this from 3-4 feet away, you really don't notice, right? And that's kind of the beauty of it. Photon M3, yeah, that's definitely supposed to be the next level up or so. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. I want to get either a 4K or an 8K printer with a much bigger build plate, because I have some models that I want to print out. I'd like to print my... I don't want to spend money on Games Workshop's vehicles. They're so expensive. But I'd love to get myself, like, some Vindicators. I'd love to get some Predator tanks and whatnot. I'd love to get some drop pods. But, again, I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars to do that. But yeah, and also there are some bigger things like the one-page rules Titan models that would print a whole lot easier if I had a bigger printer. For the last time I entered a contest of theirs, I printed their Plague Avatar, which is supposed to be a Glotkin, and I was pretty darn happy with how he turned out. But he would have been a whole lot easier to print on a bigger printer, you know what I mean? Or like the big Orca Mega Steppa Stompa proxy I printed. That took 19 jobs. Yeah, I know, it is a big boy. The Mega Steppa I printed was a 19 job print, and I could have drastically shortened that down by having a bigger printer with a bigger print bed. But it is what it is. One moment. Doop, 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 doop. Okay. Let's make that slideshow much, much smaller. So like this guy, he stands taller, almost as tall as a Warlord Titan, right? And he took quite a bit of resin to print, and it was quite a few jobs to get him done. And it would have gone a whole lot quicker if I had had a better print or a bigger print bed and the like. But it is what it is. Still looks really darn good for what he is. That being said, though, like I said, it's 1:15. I've got to leave in... Actually, let me check. I think... I can't. My phone's up there. I've got to leave at like 2 o'clock to go to a doctor's appointment. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off and eat some lunch. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know if I know, right? I don't know if the popping finished. I know that the camera's having some issues, but we'll see if we can get those fixed later. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Have a good evening if you're on that side of the world, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.